So on the last episode of the Melyssa Ford Chronicles with the Dumper, we got into her two relationships and 1.5 engagements. We are about to watch the last engagement and her closing thoughts or whatever. Hopefully I can get through the whole video. Let's get it.
So that's where we are right now.
Any advice for any beautiful women out there to try and make it? Any advice you have to give? Because I know it's a hard struggle. Understand that there's no shortcuts and there's a lot of sacrifices involved in this game that nobody will ever tell you. You're asking for a lot when you want to become, as visible as, some people on this carpet or for that. Yeah, exactly. The right way. It's just be careful. Be careful what you wish for.
See, when she says no shortcuts, and working hard and all this stuff, man, all that is fucking with other guys that are powerful in the industry that can give you other opportunities and things of that nature. That's it. That's all. It's just funny to me to hear that on the heels of this Joy Taylor stuff that's happening. And it's like, it's just really funny when you get to these like beautiful chicks and that's me keeping it a bean, who use their assets to get further. And clearly we know what it is, but they get in front of the camera and just act like, oh man, it took so much hard work and dedication and I did it the right way. I did it the right way. And it's like, bruh, like, y'all so full of shit. Y'all just so full of shit. Y'all know y'all took the shortcuts, man. Y'all know y'all took the shortcuts. Let's stop the bullshit.
When I was 20 years old, I had this boyfriend. His name was Tony Smith. I can say his name because, you could throw a rock and hit a Tony Smith. It may as well be like John Doe. He was from Greensboro, North Carolina. And
Well, that narrows it down.
he had come up to Toronto to play for the Toronto Argos, which is a football team in the Canadian Football League. And he had played in the National Football League, the NFL, for many years. And
Goodness fucking gracious. So much for identity protection. She gave us everything we needed to find the guy. He has a Wikipedia. And all I had to do, wait a minute, for the Argonauts, she gave us his hometown. She gave us so much information about his teams and everything to where I found his football card. If you really didn't want him to be known, you could have just not said his name. But it's like you gave so much information. Don't act like you don't want him to be known. If you just go and give us the whole 411 on who he is, that's ridiculous. More proof that your secret is never safe with a babe. Let's continue.
a lot of NFL players, when they're not ready to hang up their cleats, and not ready to kind of be put out to pasture, they'll come to the CFL. And so I met Tony at this festival called Caravana in Toronto. He was so beautiful.
Just to give you some idea of what Caravana looks like, it's one of those Carnival festivals, with all the Caribbean stuff and they shake their butts and stuff like that. So guarantee you 100,000% he met her with her butt cheeks out, wiggling her butt cheeks in the street because that's what Carnival is about. And they have it in Toronto. They have it in Jamaica. I can't remember. They may have it in Florida, but they may have it in New York, but they have it in a bunch of different places, man. So yeah, just one of the big whole holidays for real. Shout out to Tony Smith. Because that's where he met her. Tony Smith met her at Canberra or whatever the fuck it is.
My God, instant attraction, obviously. And we started dating. We genuinely liked each other. We liked each other to the point where we could say really, really offhand things to each other. For example, he asked me what my fantasy was. And I got this look on my face. And I said, well, a fantasy would be, I guess, a menage with me and you and somebody else. And he was like, another woman? I said, no, with another guy. And he was like, really? He was like, do you have an idea as to who this guy is? I said, yeah. He's like, really? You have to tell me. I said, it's your best friend. And I expected him to maybe slap me, I don't know what, but he threw his head back and roared with laughter. And I was like, wow, that was not the response I was expecting. And he said, do you want me to make that happen? I was like, oh my God, that is so sweet. No, absolutely not.
Wanting to make a train happen is sweet. Oh my goodness. Like what type? What? What planet? What planet are we on right now, bro? What planet are we on, bro? You tell me what planet we are on, because we can't be on Earth right now. But shout out to Tony Smith. He was ready to do the handoff. He was ready to do the handoff.
It is just a fantasy. It is meant to stay there. But just the fact that you are open to it and don't make me feel shame for feeling this way. He was like, why would I make you feel that way? And Tony, I don't know. He maybe he was just an anomaly, but wherever we would go, no matter how scantily I was dressed, he would let me move around the party as I felt the need to and interact with anybody. And he would just sit there and just watch me with a smile. At one point, somebody stood next to him and asked him, like, yo, aren't you afraid to let her walk around like that? And he was like, absolutely not. She's going home with me. I don't have anything to be worried about. And you want to know something? He was absolutely right. His level of confidence and knowing that I had eyes for nobody but him was what made him so much more sexy to me.
Shout out to Tony Smith, the player of the game. Listen, I always tell y'all this, but some of you may be new here, so I'm going to say it again for you. When we're talking about, first off, everybody around the planet knows the hoes are not good for relationships. All right? All right, so we've established that. There are only two people who are going to know a chick is a hoe and still pursue a relationship with her. And that is super weenies. Think about guys who might end up dating a stripper or something like that, just getting ran over. And she don't respect the dude at all. She is using him, and everybody knows that he is not supposed to be with her. He feels like he is lucky to be there. And even then, he might be cucked out and stuff like that. The other option is a super player. And a super player, I broke that down in the last video a little bit, and I break it down in a lot of my videos. But if you're new here, the super player is somebody who gets a lot of babes, and he really don't care what she do. He don't care that she strip. He don't care that she do porn. He don't care that she sell twat. He don't care what she do. He don't care that she been with the whole city. Even if she don't do no sex work or nothing, he don't care that she is a raging hoe. Typically, the chick is going to be some type of bad. She's going to be cold, but she's going to be a hoe. And the reason he don't care is because he gets so many babes, he just going to cheat in most cases. That's typically what happens. He don't care because he's here for a good time, not a long time. He know he not trying to lock in and stay with her for a long time. See, you might look at it and you might be like, well, dude is a simp, dude is a cuck, all that stuff. And listen, that may be true. Because I don't know Tony. I don't know Tony Smith from South Carolina or wherever the fuck she said he is from. Like, she really put his whole shit out there. That shit is crazy. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Tony could have been somebody who really wasn't getting no girls. And just because of his position and who he was, like, he fell head over heels for her. And he didn't care what she did. He didn't care what she did. It could be that situation. But like I said in the last vid about the abusive dude, who I didn't know was abusive when I said it, but if you are somebody that could bag Melyssa Ford, more than likely you were like somewhere near the upper echelon of men, especially in the 2000s when she on BET and all that stuff, and she just ultra hot. Like, you got to remember, this dude is a professional athlete. He played in the NFL. Bruh, I had to hold back for a second, man, but I know professional athletes be getting the buns if they play their cards right and stuff like that. I know it's some weenies in the NBA and stuff like that, but if you could just play your cards just a little bit right, you could get the job done, man. You could get the job done. I could keep going, but we got to get through the rest of the video.
So much more attractive and made me like and love him so much more. I wish that I could say that the vast majority of my relationships went like this, but they didn't. They didn't.
And that's one thing I forgot to say. One thing that you can do is some really good game that I don't really run, but it's some good game. If you make a 304 feel like this is Planet Fitness, which is a judgment-free zone, or a gym where they serve pizza, which is very idiotic of Planet Fitness. It's so ridiculous and counterproductive. But if you make her feel like being with you is a judgment-free zone, that will release the inner freak. That will release the inner freak.
I was raised as an only child. My father was a Rolling Stone, and I am the youngest of 11. But I am my mother's only child, and I was raised in a two-parent household, just me on my own. I used to wish constantly for a brother and a sister or a twin. It was around 6 when I figured out the twin thing was not going to happen. But I really wanted a brother or a sister because I was lonely. And I was smack in the middle of a very tumultuous marriage. Some of my earliest memories as a child are of my parents arguing and physically fighting each other.
Goodness gracious, all this DV talk be sucking the whole fun out of the room. I'm not gonna lie, I'm cutting it off. I'm cutting it off. We gonna get back to the relationship stuff when you unmute this, but the one thing that I want to say is something that I said in another video that I don't know if it's gonna come out before or after, but it was a passport bro is my dad video. And women will vent to anybody with ears.
So, needless to say, my first introduction to marriage and how men and women, the expectation of how they interact with each other on a romantic level was very, 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 very traumatizing. And they didn't do anything to try to correct it. They didn't sit me down and explain things to me or apologize to me. I think that that's something that parents really miss the mark on a lot of the time, is that you are not perfect. You are human. And to be a human being is to err. And sometimes you do things to unintentionally harm your children or traumatize them, and they deserve an explanation and they deserve an apology. When my parents were not arguing with each other, they were staying as far away from each other as possible. And what that meant was I was left home alone a lot. So one of the main reasons why my parents never said no to me when I wanted another animal. I had nothing but cats and dogs and birds and fish all over the house. I feel like animals saved me. It sounds strange, like I'm like, Mowgli or something from the what's that book called? The Jungle Book? Yeah, I'm Mowgli from the Jungle Book. But yeah, that was my reality. My parents would come home late at night. The animals were the ones that took care of me. Thankfully, I didn't burn down the house. But this left an imprint on my brain as to the way that men and women interact with each other. And it left me with a very serious internalized distrust of men.
And listen, I'm not mad at that. The thing that I am proud of her for having is the awareness of where that comes from. I'm proud of her for being aware that she has it and being aware of where it comes from. Now, from there, she needs to work on that, but I'm willing to bet that there's no work being done. Not to say she doesn't go to therapy or anything like that, but in that area, I don't think she would see a benefit in losing that contempt because she's had it, the whole time I've seen her on the Joe Budden podcast. So it's like, it is what it is. But the one thing I will say, I always try to tell y'all when it comes to a lot of these chicks, and specifically I mention this when it comes to 304s, porn stars, strippers, things of that nature. I always say them being in the state that they're in, there's going to be some trauma, and it's typically going to be one or two things. And it might not even be trauma. It just might be different types of things that molded them psychologically that aren't that traumatic in some cases, but it's going to be rooted in one or two things. The first thing is daddy issues. And with this, she has a negative relationship with her dad because of what she's seen him put her mother through. But the other one is their earliest experiences with men on a deeply intimate level. That's a safe way of putting it. So, when you look at it, and listen, I want to make it clear, these things are not their fault. In some cases where it's not traumatic, like I mentioned, it just is what it is. But in these cases where it is traumatic to some extent, they are victims. So that is something that needs to be recognized. It's not something that they seeked out or anything like that. It's something that just happened to them and it's misfortune. And the thing that the reason I have to highlight that is because if you have kids, you have to protect your kids, man. You have to protect your kids. You have to watch who you leave them with. You got to, watch what you do around them. You want them to keep their innocence and all of that stuff for as long as they can, man. And you don't want to expose them to anything negative as far as relationships with men or women or anything like that. Because trust me, even with men, it shapes men. There will be guys who see some horrible stuff and they want to emulate it. So, and it could have the opposite effect. I'm not saying it always has the same effect, but the X factor is that negative influence is there in the first place. So that traumatic influence is there in the first place. So you want to try and minimize that as much as you can as a parent, because these events shape these kids as adults. And we could sit here and we could point the finger and judge and all that stuff, but these things are hard to get over. It's not easy work. It's hard to get over. And as far as like her contempt towards men, I don't think she sees the value in getting over that. And I say that just because of how I've seen her carry herself over the years. That's just it. Let's continue.
I think that this is where I developed the disconnect of wanting to create progeny. I just did not feel that urge like other women have to have children. And it is definitely intertwined with what I witnessed from a very early age as to my parents and their dysfunction. I ended up getting an IUD implanted in my uterus. And when I say that sucker was Fort Knox, nothing was getting through that mofo. And it stayed in so long that it ultimately made the decision for me. But yet again, it's not like I felt any source of pressure. Which leads me to the last engagement.
For the tone of this video, I cut out a lot. That whole third engagement, there was no real value that could be extracted from it as far as my commentary. She mentioned that she got essayed on a cruise ship, or she was about to get essayed. That's when it got really intense. And that last relationship was very intense as well. So I didn't include that at all. You can go and watch her full, episode if you want to see that. She then got into talking about eggs. She then got into talking about being Catholic and stuff like that. Then we get to the next part that I'm about to show, which is her basically saying something else that I can actually do commentary on that is not extremely traumatic or like very serious or anything like that. And I understand it's her podcast and she's speaking her truth. So she could do that over there. Over here, we not getting into that because there's nothing I can unpack about that that's going to keep the tone. Like, you see the tone of the video, bruh. I don't want to touch that. That's like a hot oven, bruh. I do not want to touch that at all. But if you want to see it personally, you can go to her channel and watch the episode as far as, around where I left off. But we going to go to this next part.
When it comes to those checked boxes as it relates to marriage, I'm not sure if the vast majority of us go looking for these as factors in why we choose somebody. I think a lot of the times, as long as he's a good provider, that's the biggest check mark. Does he look good? Is he presentable? Do we have some things in common? Does he plan on being a good provider? Do we both want kids? Do we both want to get married? These are the things that people ask themselves, and this is what helps them make their decision. But they find out years into the marriage that it takes so much more to make a marriage successful than just those things.
And that is why chicks is lost, because that is what the main focus is, especially in the black community: money. I'm not doing 50-50. You got to provide to unlock my submission, as far as chicks who have never been submissive or anything like that. And that's what they care about most. But then they get into the relationship and think, wait a minute, whoa, I actually have to work. I actually have to contribute to this relationship in some type of way long term. And they don't really be knowing what they signing up for. They don't be ready for what they signing up for. And this is the kicker right here. They don't be willing to work through and figure out what they signed up for. That is how come the divorce rate is so high when it comes to them. And I'll be honest, what it comes down to, in my opinion, outside of all the conditioning and stuff like that, it has to be sold to them in a more realistic way. As far as all the influences when it comes to marriage and what it is, I'm talking about since they babies and stuff like that, because they do all this Disney princess stuff. No, you are not a princess. You are not a princess. Because the difference is, we don't walk around acting like we princes or we kings. Unless you like one of those hotep dudes and you get into that delusional, I am a black king. If you get in all that weird shit, then yeah, you feeding into some delusion. But men typically don't do that. But, that princess shit gets to them at an early age, and it helps build that entitlement stuff. And they just, the way romance and everything is sold to them, it just really becomes all about their feelings. And they need to understand that, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're not going to feel the greatest about this relationship the whole time. And you can't just feed into what you feel every time you feel it. You have to grow up. But yeah, she mentioned provider 2 times. That was the first thing that she mentioned. And then amongst the list of all the stuff she mentioned that a second time. That is what these chicks are most concerned about when we talk about a long-term mate. Because again, she mentioned all these fun guys like Tony Smith and et cetera, et cetera. Now, they had the bag. They all had the bag. That was cool. But you got to remember, the second dude that she got engaged to, she said out her own mouth that it wasn't the gifts, he was the gift. And that's what it really is. Like, even if those dudes got money, she was into those guys for them, or she was into that guy and Tony Smith for him, for who they were. But when it comes time to stop the hoeing, settle down, get somebody that's safe, secure, everything is good, that's when you get Mr. Provider, Mr. Safe, smooth provider. And if you go and listen to her last story, that's kind of what it was. It's not necessarily about him being a provider, but she needed protection at that point. In that last story about her last engagement that I left out. So, at one point, all chicks are focused on provider, provider, provider. But if safety is a concern, that is when you want to protect her. But regardless, that's what they look for when they want to get advantages out of a man when they are late in the game. But that is not what they are organically attracted to.
One of the main things that I think is missing from a lot of people deciding on getting married is how much of a friendship have you built with this person? Because like outlasts love 1,000% of the time. Through the course of my career and just life in general, I have spoken to so many successfully married couples, and success means that they still like each other decades later. That's success. They still wake up and want to participate in this partnership. That is success. And that's what they say, that like is more substantial than love. And looking back on my relationships, I realized that like was not high on my list of priorities. And that's probably the reason for failures. So before I sign off, I saw something on Instagram that I wanted to read today. It says, marriage is the lowest paid form of sex work. Women are owed reparations. The people we lay with are the people who are most likely to kill us, which sounds really dark, but that's the reality we're living.
How morbid and disconnected from reality is that? See, this is the funniest shit, because it's like, okay, motherfuckers will come over here like, oh, you're a misogynist. You guys are misogynist. Oh, the whole red pill. Oh, you motherfuckers don't get no pussy. Oh, you guys are misogynist. You guys hate women. You know, guys, people will come over here and they will say that shit. Oh, you don't love your mom. They'll say all that shit. But everything that is being said is rooted in some logic and some reality. Now, you got some people who get too much in their feelings and go out of bounds and stuff like that in some cases, but that's not the normal. Everything is rooted in logic. Like, everything sounds reasonable. You could reason with it. It's realistic. This right here, it's not realistic. Like, it's just, it's every sentence is absolutely ridiculous. I could do a whole video on this by itself. Marriage is the lowest paid form of sex work. That is so ridiculous by itself. That is so ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you why that's ridiculous. Because there are a lot of men in sexless marriages. Wow. 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 So let's continue. Women are owed reparations. Shut the fuck up. The people we lay with are the most likely to kill us. And they said that's the reality that they're living in. You are infinitely more likely, because I'm sure they got some type of statistic or whatever, like, oh, well, you know, the people, when you look at the homicides of women, most of the guys are their husbands. All right, whatever. You are way more likely, if we look at the raw data, the raw numbers, fuck percentages, just the raw gross numbers, the amount of women that go and file for divorce is going to be way higher. Like, I mean, extremely higher. I mean, out of this world in comparison to the women that are murdered by their husbands. Talking about reality. This is bullshit. This is bullshit by a misandrist. And when I did that whole rant at the beginning of this stop that I did, that's what I'm talking about. Like, when you look at somebody, oh, he's a misogynist, should at least be logical, should at least line up with reality. This shit right here is just pure hatred. Pure hatred and venom that doesn't even stand on any legs.
The reality is women have lost their lives in pursuit of men. Women have lost their futures in pursuit of love. I think we all need to really sit down and ask ourselves as individuals, what does love actually mean for me? And what in my life resembles that? Does the man that I've chosen resemble that love that I want and deserve? The traditional idea of love is damaging for women because it involves us being self-sacrificial in order to prove our worth. Men need to learn to find sustenance, entertainment, and sexual gratification outside of women because we don't owe men that.
This is a chick who said that she was studying forensic science in college, and she is 50 something. She is about to be, she is like, she could smell 50 in both of her nostrils. And she is regurgitating this stupid ass shit like it's on point. Like it's on point. Let's just focus on one thing, because it's like acting like men don't have entertainment outside of women is ridiculous, because y'all get mad when we play the game. I got videos all over. I got a couple videos on my channel about women getting mad at dudes playing the game. So the whole, you got to find entertainment outside of women. We have entertainment outside of women. We don't even look at you as entertainment for real. Like you are not, women are not even in the realm of a primary entertainment for most men. And I'm talking about in real life, especially in relationships, because they're talking about marriage, not through a screen, not some OF model that is getting paid $4 million by Charlie. No, I'm talking about in real life in a relationship. Women be mad when they not getting enough attention. So this is like completely disconnected from reality. But men need to learn how to find sexual gratification outside of women. What the, we gonna find it in fucking llamas? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Gratification is pleasure. What the fuck type of, this is fucking idiotic, bro. This is idiotic. It just hurts my brain trying to even like break this shit down. Cause it's like, everybody hearing this knows how dumb that is. Find sexual gratification or sexual pleasure outside of women. They get a fleshlight, but why? But why? Women don't like getting their back broke now? Women don't like dick? Why are y'all doing all this fucking there? If y'all don't like having sex, if y'all don't like having sex with men, why are y'all doing all this fucking? Why are y'all hoeing out to the max? If y'all don't want men to have sexual gratification, like through y'all, like why are you getting rent? Why do you got Tiana Trumps going to colleges, fucking 200-300 guys? But this is the other thing. She ends it with, because we don't owe men that. Duh. Let's just start there. Duh. We understand that. That is why you can get away with sexless marriages. That is why. But guess what? She just got done talking about a man providing. And that's a box that needs to be checked for marriage. So that is something that we are expected to bring to the table, that we are supposed to do, that we are supposed to be responsible for. Do we owe you providership? Do we owe you that? The thing is, it doesn't matter if we think we owe you or not. You are going to leave if you are not getting provided for. And let's be honest, the entitlement that modern women have is like extremely high. It's extremely high. Like it's out of this fucking universe. It's that high. And again, I don't know why I'm giving this that much energy, because this was written by a turbo misandrous feminist. So it's not going to be like, it's me breaking this down is just fucking pointless. I wanted to go over that first paragraph, but it's like, bro, like you could show this to a normal, healthy brain functioning woman and she's going to know that it's bullshit. Let's continue, man.
We live in a society where men assign women humanity and worth based on how attractive they are to them. Men need to learn to find sustenance, entertainment, and sexual gratification outside of women because we don't owe men that. That deserved a repeat. Thank you so much for joining me on this very personal episode. But what I want to leave you guys with is I want every woman listening to this to understand that you have and you should exercise all of your choices. The way that things are going, Roe v. Wade being overturned.
Listen, man, this was tough. I just stopped it there because I'm done with this bullshit. Like I'm fucking done. Like I'm all the way done. We've went past the realm of ridiculous. There was about 4 or 5 minutes left, and we made it through everything we needed to make it to. But listen, if you're a girl and you watching this, which 9 times out of 10, if you watching this, you like 48. So, you know, if you're in your 20s, if there's an off chance you're in your 20s, man, examine how she moved, bruh. Stop moving like that because you will end up like this without a podcast. Without a podcast. And without a man. But listen, it's very ironic that she said, you know, she developed pretty much a contempt for men because of her dad and how he abused her mother in a relationship. So she could identify that. What did I say? I said that 9 times out of 10, she has not worked on it. And I'm sure she can't see the value in working on that. That thought that I had was validated after she read that feminist bullshit at the end. So, you know, it's fun fucking with guys running around with thongs in your butt crack outside, butt cheek, you know, feeling a breeze from the wind and all that stuff. But, you know, the guys that you seek so much attention from your whole life, they are so bad. They're just so fucking horrible. They are just the worst. Yeah, you keep telling yourself that. But we are done here. We are going to end this on a good note with highlights from my dog, Tony Smith, who used to play for the Atlanta Falcons in 1992. He was with Deion and them, dog. Yeah, let's go watch that. She acting like we wasn't going to find out who dude was. Like, bro, you said his whole name and his whole resume. How could we not find out? Like, come on, man. Yeah, I'll catch y'all, man.
Touchdown!
Running back Tony Smith capped off the 34-0 victory.
On a counter play to Tony Smith up the middle. Nice hole at the 25. He's to the 20. Gets a nice block at the 15. He'll go to the 5 and he'll score. Touchdown! Tony Smith from 29.
It was the team's longest touchdown run of the season, showing the skills that have everyone buzzing about this budding talent.
Boy, what a great cut he made, huh?
In '93, Smith hopes to take his place beside another Smith and the NFL's elite rushers. And if he stays injury-free, it's no stretch of the imagination, as he showed on his very first NFL carry, the Falcons' first play from scrimmage and longest run of the year. Smith also excelled on special teams, returning a punt 45 yards and a kickoff 60 yards.